So, as Alabama fans everywhere are looking towards the South Carolina game, hoping the Crimson Tide have a redemption game, today we need to talk about how Alabama recruiting is staying active, pulling off a flip for a tight end that fits into this recruiting class perfectly, in my opinion. And of course, we're talking about three-star tight end out of Georgia, Marshall Pritchett, and why he is a fantastic addition to the class. But before we can, as always, y'all know the drill. I have got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments. Y for yes, N for no. Are you excited that Alabama is able to pull off this flip from a prospect that was committed to North Carolina? Can't wait to hear from you. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And as I alluded to in the intro, this is a guy that was committed to North Carolina, a three-star tight end out the state of Georgia who stands 6'5", 210 plus pounds, and ever since he made the switch from quarterback to tight end, he's amassed over 1,500 yards in 2 seasons. Now, one of the things I talk about all the time when it comes to tight ends is that great tight end play and great running back play can be a new quarterback's best friend. So when you're constructing a roster, it's always great to have those guys and guys that are really capable at the position. And this year, when we look at Alabama, they're utilizing their tight ends. They've been a focal point of the offense. And that's something that I'm excited to see as it continues down. Because getting a guy like Caleb Edwards in this class, now getting a guy like Marshall Pritchett, to me shows they want to incorporate these athletic tight ends. And whenever you're able to get tight ends with stylistic differences that can do different things, that's something we talk about as well, something that I really enjoy. Whenever you look at Caleb Edwards, there's no doubt that he is a massive threat with the ball in his hands, but don't be surprised if he puts someone in the dirt. When you look at Marshall Pritchett, yes, he can block, but this guy is almost one of these hybrid tight ends that's somewhat a wide receiver, somewhat a tight end, someone who you could put in the slot, create a mismatch, and let him work. Now, Caleb Edwards has that ability as well, but in my opinion, Caleb Edwards is a bit more physical. He's a guy that you're going to put on the line of scrimmage, let him chip, and then release. Marshall Pritchett is someone who you want to have work in space. He's one of those new age tight ends that offenses use as chess pieces. And that's something that I'm excited to see. That Alabama is able to get a guy in Caleb Edwards who can really do a lot, but then get a guy in Marshall Pritchett who can develop into becoming a better blocker. He certainly has the want to, but is already a very gifted wide receiver type tight end. So for Alabama's offense, I think this makes a lot of sense, especially when you look at how they've been utilizing the tight end position. Having 2 tight ends is something that the staff wanted. They're able to do that with a big-time flip for a 3-star prospect. And I already know, I want to go ahead and beat the trolls and the people saying, hey, it's a 3-star. What gives? If your coaching staff evaluates somebody, and they say, I want this guy as a part of my recruiting class, I don't care if it's a 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, or 5-star, that's a win. Being able to competently evaluate a prospect, say they are an addition to my team, why wouldn't that be something that's celebrated? I think sometimes we get far too hung up on star ratings, and that's not to say that they don't matter. They do, to a point. But we've seen 3-star players turn out to be fantastic players. We've seen 5-star players turn out to be fantastic players. We've seen 4-star players turn out to be fantastic players, and the reverse of that is also true. To me, what it comes down to, and what is more important than star rating, is evaluation. If you're evaluating these guys, maybe there's someone that just hasn't attended a bunch of camps, hasn't gotten the opportunity to be scouted as thoroughly as others. I'm not saying that's the case here. I don't know. I don't know if Marshall Pritchett has attended a bunch of these camps. But what I do know is when I turn on the film, I see a tight end that fits into the offense that Alabama's running. An athletic guy who can get out in space. Someone who played quarterback, so has an understanding of what the quarterback is looking for, which in my opinion is a positive whenever you look at who the tight end coach is, being Brian Ellis, someone who's worked with quarterbacks before at Western Kentucky. Whenever you compare those two together, I think you can have a happy marriage, especially in the future. As this guy gets on campus, gets in the strength and conditioning program, starts practicing with college guys, I think this is a guy that's going to be utilized in Alabama's offense, and for that, I think it's going to be exciting to see. But what does this mean for Alabama's recruiting class as a whole? Well, this gives the Crimson Tide 21 commits, and they still sit at the number 2 recruiting class in the nation. And Alabama has been able to recruit far better than anybody expected with Kalen DeBoer and this staff, and it's going to be interesting to see how that continues down the line, because while this is a recruiting class that already has fantastic numbers, they do have room, which makes this class so intriguing. The fact that here we are in October, they have 21 guys, but they also have room to continue adding in players. So it's going to be interesting to see the moves that the staff continues to make as they evaluate talent, evaluate who they want a part of the class, and attempt to make runs at getting those guys in the class. This Alabama Crimson Tide recruiting class is highly impressive, and when we look at the breakdown, it consists of 5 5-stars, 12 4-stars, and now 3 3-star prospects. But remember, this staff has already shown that some of Tide fans' favorite players in the class are great eval guys. Lotzier Brooks was a guy that whenever he committed, if I'm not mistaken off the top of my head, he was a 3-star prospect, has since skyrocketed up the boards, but he was a prospect that when you turned on the film, you asked yourself, how in the world is this guy not a top 100 player? Well, it's because he didn't attend these camps. He didn't have the opportunity to be scouted as heavily as others. And we need to recognize and realize that where we are right now in 2024 in terms of college football recruiting, those camps are massive if you want to be able to increase your chances of flying up the recruiting rankings. Why? It's because it's easier for these people that do the rankings. And I'm not saying it's easier to cast shade upon them. If you think about it, it makes logical sense. You can see a guy who is a ranked prospect in a camp environment against other ranked prospects. Becomes easier to rank them. Some guys, though, they just don't camp, and that doesn't mean that they aren't incredibly gifted players. It just means they don't camp. So for Alabama, it's going to be interesting to see how they can continue with this momentum. Remember, after the Georgia game, recruits everywhere were incredibly interested in attending Alabama. Now, I think a lot of Tide fans have since forgotten that with the loss to Vandy, and of course, that's understandable, but it's going to be fascinating to see whether or not Alabama can get a big-time response this weekend against South Carolina and pick up that momentum once again and see what they can do for the rest of the year. But I can't wait to hear from you. Hop down to the comments. Let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.